Dan Azeez, coming out of Cool Box Gym, future of the light heavyweight division. Big up, sporting icon. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow.
All right, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastic. So Eddie Hearn has stated that he would like Dmitry Bivol to defend his WBA light heavyweight world title against either Anthony Yarde or Dan Azeez. He says that he will be speaking with George Warren about a Anthony Yarde fight, and he'll be speaking to Dan Azeez if Dan Azeez is a free agent. Okay, so we're going to talk about those two situations in a minute, and I am going to have a little bit of a go at Eddie Hearn in a second. Now, firstly, as far as my understanding is, Dmitry Bivol is no longer a matchroom fighter. He's a free agent. So, unless, of course, he's re-signed Dmitry Bivol, and I've totally missed it, then why would Eddie Hearn need to speak with George Warren about Anthony Yarde fighting Dmitry Bivol? Surely Frank Warren could just go straight to Dmitry Bivol without the involvement of Eddie Hearn, correct? Likewise with Dan Azeez. Couldn't Ben Shalom, boxer, Sky Sports, directly approach Dmitry Bivol for that fight? Yes? Anyway, if Dmitry Bivol has re-signed and I've totally missed it, okay, then they can't. Now, on to Anthony Yarde. Okay, so firstly, Eddie Hearn is going to speak with George Warren, so that's the son of Frank Warren, about that particular fight. Now, Anthony Yarde got knocked out in his last fight. So that means, as of right now, today, he's not eligible to fight Dmitry Bivol or any champion. Now, that's easy fixable. All they've got to do is just put Anthony Yarde on any show on the planet against any fighter on the planet and get a win. Could be a journeyman, could be a 4-rounder, could go fight in Spain or Argentina or whatever. Much like they did after he got knocked out to Sergey Kovalev. Okay? Just get a win. That way you're eligible for a title shot. So it's easily fixable, but as of right now today, he's not eligible. Would Frank Warren be okay with Anthony Yarde fighting on DAZN and not on BT Sport? Well, he's always resisted before, but maybe now Anthony Yarde's taken, 3 losses, he may go, all right, off you go. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, is that a kind of fight that people want to see, though? Anthony Yarde and Dmitry Bivol? Maybe. I think Anthony Yarde done very well when he fought Artur Beterbiev. He gave a good account of himself. Ultimately, he got himself knocked out. It is what it is. But that will be 3, if, of course, he ends up fighting Dmitry Bivol for the WBA title. That will be 3 world title shots, and I like Anthony Yarde. Okay? But this is how it really is. That will be 3 world title shots. Anthony Yarde had, in his very short career, well, all 3 of those shots he didn't earn. Well, he didn't. Am I lying? He didn't. Okay? Anyway, there's that one. Okay, so Dan Azeez. He will only speak to Dan Azeez and offer him the Dmitry Bivol world title shot if Dan Azeez is a free agent. But he didn't say that about Anthony Yarde, did he? He's going to speak with George Warren about Anthony Yarde. So why is he not saying, well, if Dan Azeez is still contracted with Boxer, I'll speak with Ben Shalom about that fight? But he's only going to do it if he's a free agent. Do you see where I'm going with this? Pettiness, Eddie. Pettiness. What's the one thing that you said to me once after I had a pop at you? You said to me, don't take it personal. Make business decisions, not personal decisions. It's not personal, it's business. That's what you said to me, right? Well, is this a personal decision or a business decision? Or maybe you're getting it a little bit mixed up. Could it be, Eddie, that you're turning into the thing that you always said you were fighting against? Which is that you were always quite happy to work with Queensberry and Frank Warren, but they don't want to work with you. There are so many fights, and I made plenty of videos on it, and plenty of other people did as well, that we can't get certain fights because some fighters on Matchroom, some fighters on Queensberry want to see those fights, but we can't get those fights. And Eddie Hearn saying, well, it's not my fault, it's Frank Warren's fault. So, and you call him bitter. You say Bob Arum's bitter and many other people are bitter, and you would rather get out of boxing before you become bitter. Well, you're starting to become bitter, Eddie. You are. And I'm not the only person who's noticed that you're starting to have a lot of digs when it comes to Sky Sports boxer Ben Shalom in particular. You're having a lot of digs. And I don't want to say it's the whole Fraser Clark-Fabio Wardley situation, and if it is, it's a bit petty, mate. I mean, do you need a hug? Did Eddie Hearn need a hug? Okay? Because ultimately, you've been having quite a few digs. Remember, you left Sky. Sky didn't leave you. So why are you being petty about him? It was only the other day he says that Queensberry put on better shows than Boxer. Are you taking the piss? That's not him being serious. That's him wanting it to be that way. Reason being is because last year, 2022, let's have it right, as far as UK-based shows were concerned, Boxer and Sky Sports kicked your ass. They did, and you didn't like it. As far as UK is concerned, Eddie Hearn had a terrible year. Globally, he had some very good events. Of course, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, and other ones. But of course, Anthony Joshua lost to Alexander Usyk, and that whole Conor Benn fiasco and everything. Eddie Hearn took an absolute kicking last year. While Boxer done some great stuff. Savannah Marshall and Chrissy Shields and Amir Khan, Kell Brook, and all these other kind of ones, right? So now he's very bitter. You're turning into the thing that you always said that you despised. What was it he says to, was it Boxing Social? He says, I'd like to see Ben Shalom versus Frank Smith. Okay, listen, that's fine, okay, it's a little bit comical, but that's just Eddie Hearn having to have a little bit of a dig at Eddie Hearn, isn't it? Because Eddie Hearn hates it when people say, why don't you have a fight with someone? Why don't you have an exhibition or whatever? He's always hated it. So if you hate it, then why are you doing that with Ben Shalom? Okay, Frank Smith, he said, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll knock him out in the first round, I think Frank Smith said. Listen, it's funny, but Eddie Hearn is getting very, very bitter when it comes to them. And I think it's because they've been kicking his ass. He says how he likes competition, but you don't like competition, do you? You don't. You want to be upset about the whole Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley thing? Okay, well maybe, is it possible that this whole thing was constructed between Eddie Hearn and 258 management? Because Ben Shalom was totally out of the loop, was he not? When 258 management approached the British Boxing Board of Control to petition for him to be mandated for Fabio Wardley. Didn't even speak to the promoter, Ben Shalom, about it. Did you guys concoct this behind the scenes? I'm not saying you did, I'm just asking the question. Because you're trying to cause in-camp trouble. Listen, a lot of things happen in boxing. That's all I'm saying, right? Now, I don't know why he has to wait for Dan Azeez to be a free agent. Again, is he trying to plant a seed? Is he trying to create unrest? Is it because Ben Shalom signed up Lawrence Okoli and Joshua Boazzi and whatever else? Some of the Olympians that Eddie Hearn said he wanted, because he said he wanted all of them, whereas once upon a time he could have got all of them, but this time he didn't. Eddie, are you getting bitter? Are you turning into Frank Warren, mate? You need to chill out. Chill out, mate, okay? Because you start turning into Frank Warren, and guess what? People are going to start treating you the way that people treat Frank Warren. Bitter. And you're starting to do it now. You're planting the seeds now. People are noticing. Granted, people like Boxing Social and IFL and whatever, they're just doing their little clickbait headlines. They're trying to draw you into certain situations to get you to say certain things so people can react and it becomes headline stories. And you're falling for it each and every time. But maybe you want to fall for it because you've got a few things on your chest. Mate, just get it off your chest. Get it over and done with. If you're quite happy for Bivol to take on Dan Azeez, then call up Ben Shalom. Do it yourself. Be a man. Pick up the phone, call up Ben Shalom, and ask him to have the fight. Don't get Frank Smith in it. You do it. What's wrong with that? Because otherwise, you guys are going to end up having that relationship that you and Frank Warren's got. And at the minute, you're the culprit. People can say what they like about Ben Shalom pulling out Fraser Clark from the fight. It is what it is. It's one fight. One fight. If you feel that They were unhappy about Frazer Clarke leaving Sky and going on to DAZN for a fight. Okay, fine. It is what it is. But again, he was making a business decision because he felt that Frazer Clarke weren't ready. Frazer Clarke sees that. But Eddie, you're turning very, very bitter, mate. Very bitter. Chill out, son. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.